Hello, it's John Pollock, and this is Fight News Now, the MMA edition. Hey everyone, it's John Pollock here, and this is Fight News Now. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to be getting you caught up on what is happening in mixed martial arts, as we've got UFC 163 coming up this weekend, and you're going to hear exclusive comments later on with flyweight Ian McCall, who's going to be part of that event. Plus, John Ramdine and Robin Black are going 3 rounds. Priscilla Carapan gets caught in a Splinter Cell on the shift, and of course, this week's newsmakers. Two veterans of the now defunct WEC organization will headline this Saturday's UFC 163 pay-per-view in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, as featherweight champion Jose Aldo defends against the Korean zombie Chan Sung Jung. The champion is coming up on 8 years since his last defeat, while the challenger Jung is coming off of shoulder surgery and has not fought since May of last year.
In the UFC, it isn't always good enough to just get a win. To earn a title shot, you need to be dominant and exciting as well.
Go out there and let people know who you are. Have people talking about you tomorrow.
So when Anthony Pettis went down with an injury, no one should have been surprised that Chan Sung Jung was awarded the title bout, while Ricardo Lamas was left without a fight. In the Korean Zombie's 3 UFC fights, he has won the Triple Crown of Fight Night bonuses, scoring Submission of the Night as well as Submission of the Year for his twister against Leonard Garcia.
He's got a twister! Oh! Final seconds of the round! Trying to get it! It is! Oh!
Knockout of the night for his record-tying 7-second KO of Mark Hominick. And Fight of the Night as well as Fight of the Year for his 4th-round Darce choke over Dustin Poirier.
How about the Korean Zombie?
Jung's forward-moving go-for-broke style has earned him his nickname, as well as a cult following, including his boss, Dana White. For the South Korean to get his hand raised in victory, he will need to take the fight into deep waters and look to put the champion away late, as Aldo faded against both Hominick and Edgar. Aldo comes into the bout riding a 15-fight win streak and has defended his title 4 times in the UFC. In this last bout, he narrowly defeated former lightweight champion Frankie Edgar, but did enough in the early rounds to secure the victory. Scarface is a heavy favorite, and with Jung coming in as a late replacement for an opponent that may have secured Aldo a lightweight title shot, there is always the chance the champion may lack motivation for the contest. However, Jung's plotting style almost seems tailor-made for the Brazilian. He destroyed Faber's legs as he moved forward and gave Hominick a hematoma the likes of which the UFC has never seen. As a dominant champion faces a fearless challenger, this one seems destined for Fight of the Night. Can the Korean Zombie upset the UFC's only featherweight champion, or will Scarface continue his reign atop the division?
Aldo competes on home soil Saturday night and is a commanding favorite amongst odds makers, but has shown issues in the past when a fight goes into the deeper rounds. We bring on the expert panel to break down Saturday's featherweight title fight and who will prevail at UFC 163.
I love the Korean Zombie, man. Like, he's one of my favorite fighters, but just Aldo, man. I don't see anybody beating that guy anytime soon, man. He's like a mini Anderson Silva that doesn't want to play. He just wants to hurt you the whole time.
For this fight, I gotta go with Aldo. I think that he's just got all the tools to really make this fight not look too good for the Zombie if he wants to. The Zombie is called a zombie for a reason. He walks forward and he takes a lot of damage. Not a whole lot of striking defense. And when you're fighting a guy like Aldo, you have to have striking defense.
The co-feature on Saturday night features a light heavyweight bout with 19-3 Lyoto Machida, who continues to petition for a title fight as he meets 11-1 Penn State alumnus Phil Davis, who's the only fighter to hold a victory over Alexander Gustafsson. We check in with both Davis and teammate Dominic Cruz down in San Diego to preview this fight.
I'm all about stacking wins right now. I'm trying to get that title shot, and in order to get there, you got to win, you got to fight good guys, you got to look good doing it, and you got to have good hair. And that is why Machida is the #1 contender. It's his hair. All right, now I'm showing up in Rio and I'm having my hair cut. You better believe that. That's a fact.
I think he can shut down all of Machida's black belt, basically, and any of his grappling. I think Phil can nullify with his wrestling and his grappling altogether. The question is going to be getting a hold of Machida. That's his thing. That's Machida's gift. He controls range very well. He's got outstanding hips. He's very hard to take down. So I see this fight being a striking match. I think you're going to see some new things from Phil Davis in this fight on his feet.
I don't know. I'm going to have to go Davis. I mean, when it's this close, you got to go Davis. Always bet on black. Passion 57. Never forget that. Never forget that. Always bet on black.
Coming off this past weekend's flyweight title defense by Demetrius Johnson, the division will be in focus on Saturday night with 2 fights at 125 pounds. The main card will feature Iliard Santos meeting Ian McCall, who almost defeated the reigning champion last year, but due to an incorrect scorecard, they had to fight a second time. McCall was my guest on the MMA Report this week, and he looks for his first win inside of the octagon Saturday.
We had to take into consideration that I'd been screwed in other countries before. And, that was a big point where it's just my job to go out there and put a stamp and finish the fight, I can't really let this go all 3 rounds. I got to finish this fight as soon as possible, so there is no judging.
From Uncle Creepy, we move on to this gem, courtesy of the now retired Aaron Riley, who posted the visual result of his fight with Justin Salas. After the fight, Riley announced his retirement after a 16-year professional career and retires with a record of 30-14-1 at the age of 32. And it may not have been pretty, but Rory McDonald took home a unanimous decision victory over Jake Ellenberger this past Saturday on Fox. The win did not do him any favors in terms of moving towards the title shot, and the question still remains if McDonald would ever fight teammate George St-Pierre for that title. UFC President Dana White isn't buying the comments coming out of the TriStar gym about the hypothetical fight.
Anybody who really believes, I'm not going to say what he and I talk about privately, but you really believe that this kid doesn't want a shot at the title? Of course he does. Where he trains and where he lives, he's in GSP's house. Okay? He's not going to beat his chest and talk about that he wants a shot at GSP. And GSP would be insane to think that Rory wouldn't want a shot at him. The kid's not here working his way up the ladder to get there and not get a shot at the title. It's ridiculous.
Rory and I were friends, I don't know what to say. I'm friends with Rory, We text, we call each other, we call, we're friends. There is other ways to do things, and now I'm focusing on Johnny Hendricks. Maybe I might go up, maybe he might go up, maybe I'm gonna, there is other ways of doing things, George, I don't want to fight Rory.
John, I have been the biggest proponent of seeing George St-Pierre and Rory McDonald fight. The only thing I would rather see from these two, rather than fight, is an exchange of text messages between these two and what that looks like.
Yeah, I'm sure it'd be amazing.
Hey, George, what's up? What's going down on Friday? Hello, Rory. Is the fight going to happen?
Of course the fight's not going to happen. These guys are buddies. And again, it all becomes individual, what type of relationship they have. You go back and you look at the Ultimate Fighter back in the day. Rashad Evans, after his fight with Keith Jardine, said he will never fight Keith Jardine. He is a friend. Did that fight ever happen?
John Jones also said they'd never fight.
Exactly. Him and John Jones also said they wouldn't fight. It just depends on the person, the money involved. I have a feeling that Rory and George are that good of friends. And, Rory his career has been established because of TriStar, and I think that he knows that, and he would never insult the gym.
What's coming up with you and Robin Black? Will you two ever fight?
Nah, we're never fighting. He'll beat me up. Yeah, what's coming up?
Where there's money, there's a way.
Coming up, we're talking about some of the big fights to watch this weekend on UFC 163 and the flyweights of the division to have your eye on.
All right, don't go anywhere. Fight News Now continues. Welcome back to Fight News Now. It's John Pollock with you, and it's time for 3 rounds as we welcome in John Ramdine and Robin Black as we close off the UFC on Fox 8 chapter, and we dive right into UFC 163 in Brazil this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. We have one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world, Jose Aldo, in the main event, taking on the Korean zombie, Chan Sung Jung. Can the Korean zombie win this fight, considering he's facing a man who doesn't mess around like Anderson Silva in Jose Aldo? He knows how to get the job done. He has tools in every single area of mixed martial arts, and he still seems motivated. He still seems hungry, and every time he steps into that cage, it is all business. But, people have counted the zombie out in the past in his fight with Dustin Poirier and Mark Hominick, and what happened? He knocked out Mark Hominick, and he submitted Dustin Poirier. Is this the man that could dethrone Jose Aldo?
Ah, man, this is a crazy one. You got John Jones and you got Jose Aldo, and they are unbeatable. And what is the likelihood that Gustafsson is going to beat John Jones? It's very low.
Yeah.
And what's the likelihood that the Zombie's going to beat him? It's also very low. But if someone's going to do it, if you're going to be surprised, you'd be less surprised in this fight. Like you said, not only did he beat Poirier, he got him with his own submission. He got him with the Darce choke. Did we think he was going to Darce Poirier? No, we didn't. Did we think he was going to get the first twister ever in the UFC? No, we didn't. Did we think that the Hominick knockout was a fluke? Hominick thought so. Most of the analysts thought so after the last Jose Aldo fight. But, man, sometimes there are people capable of these things. And that Zombie, the way he walks forward, the way he stalks you, when Sean Tompkins was preparing Hominick for Jose Aldo, he said, we got to get Aldo moving back. Zombie can do that.
The problem is Zombie really kind of unorthodox style, not the most technically sound striker. We've seen he has a great ground game, willing to go out and do some unorthodox things like the twister as we saw. But Jose Aldo is a guy that can absolutely brutalize you. He's big for 145 pounds, and I have a feeling he's going to be able to make this fight a very physical one, and that's where the Zombie will have a problem.
Yeah, I'm starting to really dig this fight. You know, when you think about it, the details, the analysis, you know, the skills, they all favor Jose Aldo. They all say that he's going to win this fight. But there's this intangible about the Korean Zombie. There's this odd nature, this ability to do these things, and an insane chin. If this guy's chin holds up in rounds 1 and 2, who knows where this can go? I'd have to say, if you were going to bet your house, you bet that thing on Jose Aldo. But, you know, if you were going to roll the dice on one, this is one of those ones with these strange, intangible X-factor things about it, this weird feeling about it. If we come back on Monday morning and we're all blown away that the Zombie did this, we'll be less blown away than a lot of those other unbeatable champions.
Do you see one area in the Zombies game where he could take advantage of Jose Aldo? Is it as simple as, like Mark Hominick did, put this fight down to the ground, try to pass the guard? Everybody talks about how good Jose Aldo's ground game is, and you have to imagine it is that good. Training at Novo União with some of those monsters there, Shaolin Ribeiro, Andre Pederneiras leading it, Henan Barao, Talis Litis, all these good guys. You have to imagine, though, if you can take advantage of one opportunity, it would be put this guy on the ground, use the blueprint that Hominick set forth, and try to pass the guard and look for a submission that way.
Do I think that there's one area that the Korean Zombie can take advantage? No, I really don't. I just don't think he's on paper or technically or analytically better anywhere. But that doesn't always win you fights. It usually wins you fights, but it doesn't always. Sometimes these crazy guys who just absolutely believe they're going to win the fight with a great chin and full commitment can win fights. If the Zombie's going to win this fight, it's going to be a shocking upset or a shocking finish. I don't see it, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world.
Robin, the main event isn't the only reason to tune into this card. There's a number of reasons. The flyweight division impacted. We have Ian McCall taking on Santos. And the fight that I'm looking forward to, John Lineker, a guy that seems to be on his A game right now, taking on Jose Maria Tomei, a guy with a ridiculous record, 15 KOs, 13 submissions, with a record of 33-3. But, you know, we delved a little bit deeper into this guy's record, and John Lineker has faced some good guys where Tomei not so much so.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. First of all, Lineker, I think, has just looked phenomenal. The breakdown we did on 5 rounds that I've had the most fun doing was his. He was just so explosive, so skilled, so confident, and he really mixed it up well, showed unbelievable takedown defense, get-ups, and phenomenal striking. And then you look at Jose Tomei here, and we look down, and in his last 10 or 15 fights, there was like 5 0-0 guys. Yeah. You are 33-0, 33-3-2. At these times, 25 wins. You're fighting guys that are 0-0, tons of them. And we're in Brazil. It's not like we can't find tough 10-5 guys. Just more than happy to scrap with him. So, you know, there are some people that use the term can crusher when referring to guys, allegedly, when referring to guys like this. And, you know, you go in there and you've been fighting low-level guys, your coaches have been selecting low-level guys. You don't have a lot of confidence when you face a Lineker. We talk about octagon shock. It's a whole nother thing. You got John Lineker. You haven't faced a tough guy in a long time. That's a factor.
Yeah, Tomei making his UFC debut. Going to be a difficult one here, taking on John Lineker, who with an impressive victory on Saturday night, who knows, could throw himself into the mix for 125-pound challengers, considering the fact that not a lot of options right now for Demetrius Johnson.
It's completely wide open. open. I mean, even Ian McCall, who has 2 fights with him, I mean, 1 or 2 impressive wins, and a key guy like Benavidez loses, he's back in the mix.
Exactly.
Very wide open division. Thank you, guys. And don't forget, Ramdean and Robin are coming at you every Monday night at 7 Eastern with 5 rounds, an expanded edition of what you just saw. But we're taking a break right now. We will be back with Priscilla Carapan, who's getting you hooked up for this week's edition of The Shift. And we've got this week's viral video all still to come. Welcome back to Fight News Now, and this coming Friday night, it's movie night here on Fight Network as we present X-Men featuring Hugh Jackman, Halle Berry, and Patrick Stewart, and unlike Wolverine 2, it won't cost you anything to watch. But right now, we bring in Priscilla Carapan with The Shift.
Splinter Cell Blacklist comes out August 20th, and to get you amped up, Robin Black went down to Ubisoft Toronto to chat with combat specialist Kevin Secours and actor Eric Johnson about the game. Here's our extended look at Splinter Cell Blacklist.
They're calling the attacks the Blacklist.
The Blacklist cannot be stopped.
Sam Fisher is back in full swing in this edition of Splinter Cell as he attempts to thwart the Blacklist ultimatum initiated by a terrorist group called the Engineers.
This is the Blacklist.
You have soldiers in 153 countries. Bring your troops home, or every week we will attack you.
This Splinter Cell is different. It actually really takes some of the best things from all the different games, and it's like a hybrid of what's best about the series.
Should have a visual on the leader now, Sam.
Got him. Moving in.
Splinter Cell Blacklist is as stealthy as ever, but this time you can define your own approach to each mission.
This is taking stealth to the next level, so a lot of the sort of hallmarks of the game series are still there, but we have 3 player modalities. Ghost, where you can simply go through with minimal contact. Light. Panther, where you can stalk, pull them into the shadows and finish them, but then hide the evidence. And full out assault, where you can just go in and attack.
So many different ways you can get through it, and it's all about how creative and how it fits your personality. So it becomes a very personal way of playing the game.
Is it even possible to make Sam Fisher more of a badass? The answer is yes. Ubisoft continues to add details to the character from the way he fights right down to the way he walks.
They had an idea for how they wanted Sam to move, and so the whole idea was that he would be exceptionally fluid and always sort of 5 steps ahead. Sam would not be limited to any one label or style. He would do whatever it takes, and that oftentimes his body would almost react so autonomously that it would even surprise himself. He wouldn't even remember what he did.
The biggest thing about him is he's adaptable to almost every situation. So for us, that was a challenge of making a guy look the best of the best.
Kevin Secours is one of the masterminds behind developing Sam Fisher's combat skills. Here's a list of his credentials.
3rd-degree black belt in Kempo Jiu-Jitsu, 1st-degree black belt in Akai Ryu Jiu-Jitsu. I was a full instructor in 5 Shaolin Chuan Shu. I've trained in shoot wrestling, Muay Thai, done some BJJ, done some Sambo, and I'm principally known now for Russian System.
Authenticity is a key factor in Splinter Cell Blacklist, and realistic combative techniques play a major role in designing Fisher's offense.
It's one thing to physically defend yourself, but when you add weapons into the mix, it dramatically changes things.
The first thing we had to do was really look at the punctuation of the moves, because a lot of the work that we would use in a real situation was a little bit too tight. Fundamentally, the techniques that we use are generally real-world stuff. For the most part, reality was a big concern for us.
I decided to suit up and have Kevin break down some of the techniques that Sam Fisher will use out on the field.
Now, we study and analyze combat sports all day.
Yes.
But you designed Sam Fisher, it's not a combat sport. He's a legitimate killing machine combat specialist.
Absolutely.
Can you show me a little how he moves?
Sure. I mean, what we'll do is I'll take a lot of the stuff that you guys are familiar with, which is a perfectly viable delivery mechanism with little tweaks. So if we look at the ground position, one of the most basic sort of tactical stand-ups that you'll see used in MMA and BJJ, have 1 foot on the ground, a diagonal post, and we bring ourselves back. Come on up, right? In Sam's case, however, he's not always dealing with somebody 2 feet away. And so what we're looking at basically is an exchange from this seated position onto the ball of 1 foot, the heel of the other. that kind of a fluid sort of, it's often called a pistol get up because the legs are in a pistol configuration, and the idea is to keep my horizon line as smooth as it can be. If you look at a traditional sort of BJJ or judo style sports roll, you'll often have this on.
Yeah.
When we look at sort of the combative roll, we want to have our weapon. So if I'm facing, I want to have it always facing. That becomes my point of contact.
And then how about his hand-to-hand stuff? He wants to break something or kill someone, right?
Exactly. I mean, he'll still use kicks to the inside of the ankle. He'll still look for the inside of the leg. We'll still go for saphenous nerve with knees. A lot of the times he's looking at disarming. So if a person has a weapon, after any sort of work, he's looking to strip and get that weapon out, and then maybe go to that sort of Muay Thai underhook and pike, strike. He might use the person in this configuration as a body shield.
That's not gonna help.
Even if we look at something as basic as a rear naked choke, in an MMA environment, very valid arterial choke is like this. The only difficulty is that now it occupies your hand. With one hand, it's difficult to acquire pressure. So just think of taking your hand, bring it up to your left ear like you're slicking your hair.
Yeah.
So now you've got full pressure. If you feel your chest, you'll see right away.
Oh yeah.
You have all the power, and so what happens now is this hand's free, you can under scooch, you can pull that so you grab that weapon and you keep it a little retracted, so now you can use that. Even if you needed to go into a hostage situation, you could pull off into a base or grappling pull Nelson, like this.
Oh yeah.
Keep that like this.
And
you
shoot this way.
Exactly. As long as your slide is clear, you could walk me laterally. You have a good choke right here. If you needed to go to a secondary weapon, Sam's Karamit's on his left, you could grab it. You could underhook here.
Now I've got you under control. I've used your weapon to shoot somebody else.
Exactly.
And I'm using you as a shield.
Exactly.
It's super
and
cool.
if you think from this position, if you went into your traditional MMA sprawl, you would have a neck break on.
Oh yeah, right.
So you throw your legs back, you push down, and then I'm done.
But it must have been a lot of fun to build this character.
It was a blast. It was a blast.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Rob.
What are you planning?
We're past planning. It's a trap. Get out of there now.
That's all for the shift this week. Back over to you, John.
Thanks, Priscilla, and we're almost out of time, but before we get out of here, it's this week's viral video time. Documented footage of things you simply wouldn't believe through word of mouth. Here's this week's contribution from the human race. And that brings this week's edition of the show to a close. Thank you to our guests Phil Davis, Dominic Cruz, and Ian McCall. That full chat with McCall will be up on the MMA Report Thursday at FightNetwork.com in the podcast section, as well as on iTunes. Don't miss 5 Rounds Monday at 7 Eastern. On behalf of John Ramdine, Robin Black, Priscilla Carapan, and the whole Fight Network crew, I'm John Pollock. Enjoy UFC 163 this weekend.